The podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Deep within the mantle of the planet Zilsen, a jagged, glittering portal, a tear in reality, warps the walls of a dim cavern. The walls, laden in cables, metal plating, and blinking lights, tremor for a moment until righting themselves as though alive. Inside the tear are images of rolling dunes, colossal, crystalline monoliths, and jagged cliffs. Such that a window were opened, the light of the desert illuminates the cavern. This underground stronghold, where sunlight has never before been shed, is part of a massive, world-spanning complex, and is but a fragment of the body of a sentient computer god, Deva. Silhouetted by the radiance spilling forth from the tear, a creature steps forth. Scales cover the body of the creature, who seems to wear a cloak of thick, articulated spines. It turns and calls back in a series of unrecognizable grunts and clicks, perhaps to another like it, but the words are swallowed by the tear blinking itself closed. The cavern darkens and settles into silence. Abandoned in this world, the creature darts its head about, searching for a way home, or at least out of the cavern. Moments pass in stillness until a dull whirring echoes from the ceiling of the cavern. The creature scrambles behind a crackling metal pillar. The seeker drone does not last long. Moments after scanning the creature with its soft light beam, it speeds toward the pillar and emits a crippling, high-pitched noise. Howling and clutching at its own skull, the creature begins to emit steam. In a flash of white and orange, a cone of flame bursts from the creature, enveloping and melting the drone. The cone carries forward into and through one of the cavern walls. An array of blinding lights activate along the ceiling, walls, and floor, revealing every angle of the cavern. Among the rumble of the injured stone and steel, the creature blasts a second wound through the cavern and crawls through into another chamber. It seems to know already that it is being hunted. However, the hunt is not for prey to eat, but an anomaly to be eliminated. The eye of Deva is now upon it.
Sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me neither, but this is the story of Infinities Defiance of Fate, a new game on Kickstarter, or about to be on Kickstarter, by Stephen M. Barry, who is the mastermind and creator of this game. And we're lucky enough to have Stephen on Getting Geeky with Game Relief with us tonight. Is that correct? Is that how you fall into line with this game, Stephen?
I am a co-mastermind. I'm also partnered with Jordan Page, and together, along with our primary artist, Yela, we form Vital Entertainment.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief with us. We really appreciate it, Stephen.
Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Glad we could make your Friday night a little bit more interesting, hopefully.
Oh, absolutely. I look forward to seeing what we come up with here tonight.
There you go. So let's rewind a little bit if we could. How did you get into board gaming as a hobby?
So as a teen, I spent a lot of time role-playing. So that was spanning from things like Rift to D&D to Mage Ascension, other games. Primarily introduced through a small group of friends, a trio of brothers and a couple other guys that I'm really close with. And we, you move on after high school and college, you sort of drift apart and then come back together when you can. And part of that getting back together, a few of them had gotten into board games themselves, and they sort of pulled me in. We played games like Last Night on Earth and Betrayal at House on the Hill. We played Munchkin, which kind of has a very polarizing effect in the board game community. But at the time, we enjoyed ourselves hacking and slashing at each other. So really, it was not my own doing. I was basically pulled into it by my close friends, and I'm very thankful that they did that.
Oh, okay. So you can blame it on them, I guess?
Yeah. You can pretty much, if you have any problems with our game, you can blame them. I like that. I'm going to put that on the box, I think.
There you go. Blame my friends. There you go. Cool beans. So, you started off with role playing. Do you ever play anything like it was Middle Earth role playing? That's the role playing game I played.
I haven't actually, no.
It was like a red box. Red. I never got into D&D, but my friends as well dragged me into Middle Earth role playing. And then by the time we've played for a while, and I got the book and everything, they stopped playing. They did the same thing with Magic: The Gathering for me.
Yeah, Magic, that was an interesting time of buying a lot of things and not playing very often with them. I had that period myself.
Yeah, luckily I got in on the tail end of it as they'd already gotten into it and they were playing, and then suddenly I bought a pack or something, and then they stopped playing, so I really didn't have to worry about it.
Okay, yeah, and that sort of thing happens with games like Magic or your tabletop war games, so Warhammer and so forth. You think this is going to be lots of fun, and I'm going to invest some money so I can go play with people, and then it doesn't happen as much as you would think.
Yeah, and then you get into something like tabletop board gaming, and I don't know if you have this problem, but we, with my wife, she got into it before I did, and backed a lot of games on Kickstarter and sees cool games, and we get them, and then they end up sitting on the shelf forever because it takes forever to get to them, get to the table. Do you have any? Do you have a shelf of shame as well? I guess people call them. I think.
We have a cabinet of shame, yes. There's some games that sit in there toward the bottom, which is kind of sad. I feel like they might be wearing thin on their integrity. We did break out. We had as a wedding present when we got married. Actually, Dominion was given to us, and it took us a little while to get to it, but we went on a vacation and we wanted something we could play 2-player and something we hadn't played yet. So we brought Dominion, and she completely cleaned the floor with me. So now it sits there again because we're not playing that anymore.
Yeah, that's how it is with me. We haven't played Dominion, but that how I usually end up losing to my wife and kids or whatnot. We busted out Santorini. I spent like 15, 20 minutes watching Rahdo's run through with it. And then we busted that out, and I wanted to use the God cards. I was stuck on it because that's how Rahdo had introduced me to it. And she wanted to try it this the original way, and so we did that. She cleaned the floor with me, like I want to say 3 or 4 turns or something in the first round, and then she was going to do the same thing again, but didn't end up winning because she was about to clean the floor with me again, and then just started busting up laughing and couldn't contain herself. So I don't know that we're going to be able to get that one to the table again, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's actually a good example, though, of a very accessible game. I'm not surprised to hear that you played it with your kids as well.
Yeah, oh, Santorini, I need to get it to the table with my kids. That's probably the only way I'll get it back there.
Yeah, I think I've read of kids as young as 8 playing that game and beating their parents.
I wouldn't put it past them. Yeah, I imagine my 9 and 10-year-old will clean me up. I'll have to bring it to the table with them. So let's see here. So you brought Dominion, you got Dominion off. For 2018, as we're in a new year, do you see yourself getting any? Are you going to get any games off the? I guess you call it a cabinet of shame or whatnot. Any games you plan on bringing to the table that you've had for a while?
So I live in an area where the community is pretty into the werewolf type games. So your Salems or what have you. We have a big werewolf pack that we haven't gotten to do because usually if we have people over, it might be 5 or 6 at the most. So I'd really like to try to get a really a large game of something, whether that's werewolf or 2 Rooms with a Boom or something a little bit more social, because sometimes it will deviate into more, I guess, above the bar for casual, and that can alienate some people. And I really like one of the things I mentioned, the trio of brothers earlier. One of them in particular was just so passionate about. He didn't care if he won. He didn't care if he lost. He just wanted to teach people board games and show them that they could have fun with this medium. And so I'm trying to sort of pay that forward and have people play games that maybe they're not comfortable with board gaming, but then they realize how much fun it can be. And I think that for what it's worth, social games, I think, are one of the best ways to serve as a gateway. So I think that's what I want to do the most in 2018 is get some of my larger games off the shelf.
Okay, so social games. I don't know much about those, but I think we recently there's one that just launched on Kickstarter just recently. It'll be done by the time this airs probably, but it's Kung Pao Chicken. They just launched this last Tuesday, and me and my kids got to play that, and it's a pretty fun game. But it seems like more of it's not I guess not as many people. I think it's 3 to 5 players or whatnot. A hidden identity game, but it was pretty fun. Usually I don't like social games or whatnot.
Yeah, Hidden Identity is popular here. We like Coup quite a bit for a game that even if, say, my parents are visiting, they're happy to play that game, even though they don't typically play board games. They actually look forward to playing that.
Is that the one where you're trying to somebody's the detective and somebody's a murderer or whatnot?
No, so in Coup, you have 2 cards. Each of them give you a special ability, and there's 5 different characters. You could be any combination of those 2, and you could even lie about which 2 you have. And essentially, you're fighting over a pile of coins, and then you can turn the coins in that you've earned to take people out. It's pretty fun. It plays in 15 minutes, so it's quick to teach and quick to play.
Maybe we have that. I don't remember. It sounds familiar, but I'm not sure. All these games seem to run together, unfortunately.
Yeah, they can start to.
And speaking of games running together, Kickstarter usually tends to do that. And the word on the street is you have a new game on Kickstarter or about to be called Infinities Defiance of Fate. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so Infinities is a long labor of love. It had its roots in actually Jordan and I, my partner, had conceptualized actually a role playing game, a video game, using this unique world that we'd created. And as time went on, and in developing that, we were finding that we weren't going to be able to handle that just on our own, as far as expertise goes. So we started thinking about other mediums. Can we do something else with this? And it naturally progressed because both of us enjoy board games. So we started thinking about how can we keep the same world, but maybe just go a completely different direction as far as the gameplay goes. So, not it was essentially the idea was an RPG, single player RPG. So let's use this world in another way. So we've been working on it for about 3 years. For most of that time, we've been prototyping, iterating, developing, balancing all of that through Tabletop Simulator remotely. We don't live in the same state. Between him and I, friends online will come and we have our own little Discord server that we use, and people can come play and try things out and see what's broken and see what's not. So we've been developing that. The game itself is what we call a strategic adventure game. To put it briefly, it combines familiar elements of games like Magic the Gathering, so your strategic card game, some wargaming elements, so your a little bit of area control and attack ranges and things like that. Some elements of games like King of Tokyo, where you're dice chucking to figure out what kind of actions you can use on your turn. And then finally, there is a campaign mode, which somewhat resembles something like Arkham Horror or Betrayal at House on the Hill in its narrative techniques. So we kind of thought, what are the games that we enjoy? We like things with variable powers. We like things with an element of chance. We like things that can tell a story and immerse you in the world. And so we figured out what are the components that we can use to sort of pull from those games that we enjoy and create something special, and create something that we would want to play ourselves and would be happy to teach friends and strangers alike. And hopefully they enjoy it too.
So you pulled all your favorite components out of games and created Infinities Defiance of Fate. It sounds like.
Yeah, for Defiance of Fate, this is a strategy that you see employed by companies like Blizzard, where they figure out what's working. What's this one nugget that's working in this other game, and how can we pull that, make it our own, and maybe even make it better? And so that's what we tried to do. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So let's see here. Say we were to sit down, me and you, to play this game. How would it look? I mean, how would it sound? This is a podcast after all.
Sure. So narrating you through what a table would look like. Each person would have a player mat in front of them, which has their unique leader. Their leader has special skills. Above your leader, you might see that someone has played out some unit cards, and those units join your leader and his party and empower him or her. If those units die, then your leader gets weaker. So it's all about keeping a strong presence on the board. At the center of the table, you would see a series of hexagonal tiles. So you would have a rift tile in the center, as you might have heard from that beginning narration. There's sort of these tears in reality, combining these worlds together through the multiverse. So you'd have a rift tile, and then you have sets of tiles from different worlds sort of overlapping on each other and morphing around the table. So there's a nice a visual display there, sort of a tableau plus map building. So that's what the table would primarily look like. Cards, playmats, and tiles.
Okay, and then how would it go down? Like if we're going up, is it a go? Will we go up against each other? Or is it co-op, or what kind of strategy is being played?
So that's the beauty of what we're trying to do with our game. So with Infinities, the whole idea is everything is hybrid in a sense. And by that I mean the story is hybrid because you have science fiction and fantasy butting heads in our world here. As you heard from that narration, you have this sort of fantastical fire magic creature that's melting these science fiction drones and breaking these walls. So you have a hybrid story, but then the mechanics themselves, as far as how you play the game, is hybridized as well. So you would have your components of your dice chucking to figure out what my actions are, right? And then am I going to play cards? Am I going to attack you? Am I going to move around the map? As far as what you do and who you play with, that is either free for all or team game if you're in our skirmish mode, which is sort of the competitive mode, if you want to put it that way. And again, going completely hybrid, like I was mentioning, in your adventure campaign, you can, based on which chapter you're in, you might be free for all, you might be a team game, you might have an all versus one game, you might have a completely co-op game based on the chapter. So your allegiances are going to be fleeting as you play through the campaign. And really what you're trying to do is put yourself in the shoes of these different people in each chapter, rather than just maybe have a persistent character. So we don't want to call it like a role-playing experience, because you're not going to be playing the same character the whole adventure, but you're going to see the different sides of this conflict between two factions as you go through. So the short answer to the question is it's all of the above. Free for all team, all versus one, co-op.
Okay, and you talk a lot about chapters. If I get, how many chapters are there?
So for this game, it's going to be launching with 2 factions, and each combination of factions for Infinities Defiance of Fate comes with an adventure guide. This one has 12 chapters, and they are not linear sequential. Essentially, you would play one of 2 for your first chapter, and based on the result of that chapter, of which there are usually 4 victory conditions that are possible, whichever one of those is met, it tells you a few things. It tells you, number 1, here's the end of the chapter. You read some narration. Number 2, what's the next chapter I go to? And number 3, what's the story thread that we apply to our game box? And to put that briefly, what a story thread is essentially a temporary legacy element. So you might take a leader out of the game for the rest of the campaign, or you might shuffle some cards from one deck into the other because they stole some of their resources for the rest of the campaign. So it's not something that you would need a reset kit for, but it is something that leaves an impression on your campaign, because you'll go through those 12 chapters, but it might take you several playthroughs with your group to do so. Each time you play through, you're going to be going through about 3 to 4 chapters, depending on the results of each of them. So you're going to have to play through it a lot to see all the different combination of chapters, but then also all the different endings, because each of the terminal points in that set of 12 has 3 to 4 different endings as well. So there's a lot to explore when it comes to the adventures.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of, I guess depending on how you play, it almost reminds me of a choose your own adventure book, where you can, at the end of the chapter, you can go one way or another.
You got it. Yeah, that's absolutely our goal, is to, with the choose your own adventure book, you you have a little bit of agency over the narrative that you're being presented with, rather than just sort of being the audience. You're sort of taking part. You kind of have your hand maybe next to the author's pen. You're influencing it, right? And that's kind of what we're going for here. Is that in essence, and this is in part of our rule book, that there is no one true canon for infinities, and in fact, it's right there in the name that there are an infinite amount of infinite worlds because of the way that branching decisions work. So we want you to make your own canon as you play, and maybe decide this is the way that things happen. The way that we played through it this time, that's the way that I think it actually happened.
Okay, and so it sounds like a lot of replayability then.
Absolutely, that's what we're going for. You hear it touted over and over by lots of games that there's X amount of hours or endless replayability. Really, what we want to go for is just when you sit down at the table, you're going to see at least one thing happen. No matter how many times you play it, you're going to see one thing happen that you've never seen before. Maybe it's, oh, well, you happen to be in this kind of tile and I was in this one. You drew that one card and then it just blew things up. Just seeing those little elements of tension that are created by the random elements combining or going against each other, I think creates that element of surprise and that sort of novel feeling of not knowing what to expect. And that's what we want to go for.
Okay, and you talked of taking other elements from other games. Is there any other games out there like this that have that element of surprise?
I think again, this is, I do try to preface this. I do say it's a polarizing game, but it is an influential game for me, which is Betrayal at House on the Hill. You can read very mixed reviews online everywhere about it, but the crux of my influence from that game is the idea that unless you've memorized the book of all the different haunts, you don't know for sure what's going to happen when that haunt occurs. And that was a really nice surprise the first few times I played it. Was that you're exploring the house and you're building the tiles, essentially building the world, and getting your items together, and then you don't know if that person that's next to you is going to turn into a Frankenstein's monster, right, or some sort of specter. So that was a game that was very surprising for me on a narrative level. Pandemic is a game that mechanically can be surprising because you may just flip over those epidemic cards and it can be a huge problem all of a sudden when you thought you had everything together. So I think trying to surprise players of both tastes, because every player has their own taste, looking at people that are more desiring that crunch, or people that are desiring that immersion and that flavor and that narration, and trying to balance pleasing both of them without homogenizing our game has been a challenge that we've tried to rise to going through the development of the game, because we want to have something, I don't want to say for everybody, because it's certainly not the most casual game in the world, I'll admit, but it is something that's rewarding if you're willing to take the 20 to 30 minutes to learn it and then play through it.
Okay, and you talked to the development and whatnot. So during playtesting, was there ever anything that you guys had to scrap because it just wouldn't work?
I don't think we have enough time for that. So much. Yeah, it's easy to come up with ideas. Ideas are a dime a dozen, right? That's sort of the old adage. But executing those ideas in a way that was intuitive, that was fair, that was still interesting, that's super hard to do. At one point, we had interrupt cards, right? So if you think about Magic, like your instance, so at any time you could be doing something and a player might throw a card from their hand on the table and completely ruin your turn. And again, we're talking about those people that like that heavy crunch. For those heavy thinkers that played the game, they liked that because they could influence during other people's turns heavily. The problem that you run into is for the people that maybe aren't as into that and they're looking for maybe faster turns and some back and forth play, it could get a little one-sided if someone's just laying down several of those cards at a time. So we actually removed interrupts from our game. There are no cards that you can play from your hand off turn. And that was a big change that helped our gameplay time by quite a bit. But also, I think it helped the psychology of the player, especially the one that had that being played on them, because it gave some agency back to the player whose turn it was, rather than have them surprised and have that off-putting feeling put in by the person playing the card. So that was just one of many, many, many things that was a big change in our game.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I talked to a lot of designers and whatnot, and they talk about how many it goes through a lot of reiterations and whatnot. One of the elements I do like, it sounds pretty cool, where you mixed fantasy with sci-fi. That means I'll have dragons and spaceships, maybe, or something like that.
Well, not in this pairing. No spaceships, no dragons, and there are sun lizards that are very large creatures that have some dragon-like properties, but nothing like a trope, I guess I would say. Like, we don't have any sort of familiar faces in our game. The primary race that you get, the first faction that you get, is the Lightbearers, and they're actually a fantasy race that are based on the pangolin, if you've heard of them. So they're like a plated creature. They're actually endangered because they're hunted for their scales. But we created them. They're this desert living race, and so they're unique, right? And they have their own special look that it's commented on very frequently. People say, like, I haven't seen something that looks like that before. For the sci-fi side, it's not very flashy space opera type stuff. It's a lot of very elegant constructs of Deva, which is from that narration, this sort of globally spanning presence. It's everywhere at once. It controls everything through its processors. So it's very, I guess I would say, there's a sense of dread with the way that the Deva's cards are presented. We don't want to suggest that Deva or its followers are evil, but it's almost too perfect in a way. So that's the way that technology is presented on the sci-fi side. It's something that's maybe closer to, have you seen the movie Elysium?
I don't think so, no.
So the technology in that movie is presented, especially the drone that follows the main character at one point. It's not very gritty sci-fi stuff. It's just this very elegant looking curved ball. But once you see what it does, it becomes very alarming. And so that's kind of what we wanted to go with, that sort of tone.
Okay, cool bean. So let's see. Yeah, looking at some of the cards that you have on Board Game Geek and whatnot, they look pretty cool. So who does the art again on this?
So we have our artist Yela, and she has done most of the art. We had about 5 artists stroll through, and they would do a couple cards here and there. But Yela has set the tone for the style of the game for the most part. We went with something that was a little bit more stylized, rather than go for something either too realistic or too painterly. And the reason for that is because we think that, number one, it sets us apart from other games that kind of try to mimic that style rather from other card games. So we wanted to make our own style, essentially. So we went with something that was kind of right in between illustrative work and vector work. So it's in this interesting space that some people call vexel art. And we think that it gives it a unique look.
I think it does. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I know there's a lot of people who are creating Kickstarters and stuff. They've asked that other people, they can get advice from other people creating games and whatnot. And so, how do you go about? You said you went through about 5 artists and whatnot. How did you go about that process?
So a lot of that is just headhunting, to be honest. You kind of have to just do the work and go through galleries on either ArtStation or DeviantArt, or you can go through Board Game Geek has forums, and really just start going through portfolios and putting yourself out there and say, hey, I have this thing that I'm doing. But then the challenge is, as a first time creator, setting a realistic expectation for that artist that I'm not going to be able to pay what Fantasy Flight pays you, right? So you have to do that both with the artist and with yourself. Maybe you see an artist you really love, but you have to know and you have to be honest with yourself and say, I just don't think I can afford that person. Let me change my scope here. And that was part of the art style change as well, is that, yeah, could we go out and could we pay $300 a card to get something that looked like it was at a Fantasy Flight game? Sure, we could, but then we would just blend in with them and we would have paid a lot of money to do so. So why not create our own identity and find our own artists that can hit that style? And I think that we really did.
Makes sense. That's pretty good. Cool. So let's see. Per se, somebody's fallen asleep. It wouldn't be because of you or your game. It'd probably be because they're tired of listening to my voice on the podcast. Started back in May last year and put out 100 episodes during the calendar year or whatnot. So they're sick and tired of me. But they're suddenly jolted awake, so they don't hit the oncoming traffic. And now you have their full attention, Stephen. Why should they back this game out of all the other great games that are on Kickstarter currently, or when this launches or whatnot? Why should they take a chance on this one?
So one of the big things that you mentioned before is replayability. And I think that there are hundreds of hours in this box easily. Whether that's you playing against one friend, you taking it to your local game store and doing some skirmishes there, you getting your group together and having a faux role-playing night every week and going through campaigns, you can do all of that in this box. So that's a huge benefit for our game. The other thing is, this is a game that we plan on supporting as we move forward. So these are just the first two factions. We plan and we have plans for future factions, future adventure guides between them. So you'll have more content coming through. So more campaigns, more skirmishes, more combinations of different leaders fighting each other. So it's something that is not a one-time purchase either. You can play the entire game with just this box. It is not a CCG, but if you want more, we are ready to bring it to you. But we just need that support for this first core set so we can do that.
Okay, so it says 2 to 4 players. So there's two factions. Does that mean if I sit down with 4 people, with 3 other people, two of us would have one of the same faction or whatnot?
That's correct. So say, for example, you're playing a team game. 2 of you would play from the Light Bearers deck, so you're playing from the same deck. 2 of you are playing from the Dava Network deck, so they'll play from the same deck. Or you're in, let's say, an adventure mode chapter that is completely cooperative. All 4 of you will play from the same deck, and you'll play against the other deck with its own AI that's built into that chapter.
Okay, and yeah, just looking at some of the art and some of the stuff that has been said about this game and whatnot, it looks pretty stellar. What is this going to put somebody back if they were to back this on Kickstarter?
So our target right now is we're trying to get it to $49 with shipping in the United States and then just a little bit of additional shipping elsewhere. So we're really just trying to find the right quote for that. We have some quotes that get us close. So we're just trying to turn some knobs here and there with component qualities and things of that nature, so we can really zero in on that amount. But that really is our target is 49 with the that shipping caveat.
Okay, well, that's pretty good. So $49, and that'll get it to you. That includes shipping for the people in the United States?
That is our current plan. That's our tentative price.
Okay, so and you have like a month and a half or so around there before it actually launches?
Correct, yeah. So we're in communication with a couple of manufacturers still, and also some fulfillment companies, so we can really see, there's so many things that go on behind the scenes that people who don't do these campaigns don't really know about. And it's something I didn't know about. I've had to learn to do so many things as part of working on this game, beyond just game design, but how to put up a website and how to put together a video, or how to contact these companies for quotes, how to write a contract for an artist. So you have to become a jack of all trades when it comes to something like this, unless you have the funds to hire an entire team to do that. So it's definitely a lot of work, but hopefully it'll pay off in the end.
Yeah, I hope so. So was there a resource that helped you realize what you had to, that kind of gathered all the information, or you had to go and find out from other creators, or how did you go about finding out everything that you needed to learn? I know that you haven't launched yet, but
Yeah, so I mean, there's this, the steady blogs, James Matthey and Jamie, and you have Facebook groups where people can do Q&As with Kickstarter experts. That was big for me. But also, what I would do in this past year is um, I would watch campaigns that were from first-time creators, see what they were doing, and then I would just try to connect with them through social media somehow and just ask them a few questions. Respectfully, I'm not going to grill them for an hour and a half, but if there was one specific thing that I saw that they were doing and I liked how they were doing it, then I would just take the time to introduce myself and ask them. And that was the big thing. And it's the same as I said with the artists. You just have to put yourself out there to an extent. And that's just something that I did.
okay, well that's good. Hopefully it'll all pay off and whatnot. So yeah, and this will run from, if I recall, it's going to start the 20th of February. Is that correct?
That is our target date. That's correct.
Okay, and how long do you anticipate the campaign running for?
It's going to be a 30-day campaign is the plan. So we'll be running through towards the end of March.
Is there any magic to that number, or any? How'd you come up with that decision?
So we don't want to go over. So from my reading, you don't want to go over a month because you start running into other campaigns. People only have so much money. And if the other campaign launches while you're on day 30, but your campaign is actually like 40 days, they might actually back out so they can get that other game they wanted. So you want a short enough window, but at the same time, you want a long enough window so enough eyes can get on it in that month time. So 28 to 30 is typically a good pocket to be in. So it gives people time to garner that attention. And then you can also, offer time for marketing, giveaways, other things like that during the campaign, because you don't want that portion to be too short either.
And you talked about getting eyes on it. So I don't know if you know all of them or whatnot, but do you have a few notable reviewers or any YouTube channels that people might be able to see this on in the near future?
Yeah, so right now the game is making its rounds in the United Kingdom through the Board Game Exposure Collective. So you'll see it on all of those reviewers' sites and YouTubes. We're also going to be on the Board Game Spotlight, and that's with Derek and then with James Hudson. So they're going to be doing that, and I do believe we're going to be on the Board Game Closet, which is their associated podcast. So that'll be pretty fun. We're going to be with Unfiltered Gamer. I actually just played with him the other day on Tabletop Simulator. So
will he be doing a playthrough, or what will he be doing?
So yeah, he's planning to do both video and time permitting and everything, a live stream of it. It's something that I like his live stream format. I actually got to check it out the other day, and they do a good job over there. I like that. Addition to that, we're hopefully going to be on with Just Got Played as well. So we'll be on a few of those platforms.
Well, that's pretty good. It seems like that helps out. More people can see it or whatnot, because as opposed to just perusing and stalking creators like I kind of do.
Yeah, and I think having the reviews does a couple of things, especially if it's from names like those I mentioned. Number one, you do have that just the third party saying this game is good rather than the creator trying to convince you that it's good, right? But you also have now, it's not just someone else, it's someone else that a gamer might trust, right? So maybe I won't buy a game unless I see Unfiltered review it, and if he gives it a good review, I'm going to buy that. There's those people out there. So, we're trying to reach them as well, that it's basically thumbs up, thumbs down based on that reviewer that they trust. So we want to have voices that can speak for us, I guess, in a sense.
Well, that makes sense. And you talked to the Board Game Closet. Any other podcasts besides them and us?
At the moment, no, but I guess I'm keeping my ears open.
You might check with I don't know what his time availability is or whatnot, but I really enjoy what is it? Richard Simpson's "We're Not Wizards." He's based over in the UK. He interviews a lot of creators over there.
Oh, thanks for the tip. I'll have to look him up.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So yeah, that's cool. Now, I don't know if you listened to any of our podcasts or were not previously, but the next section of our podcast is called the Adventures in Application Acquisition, where we talk about an application, be it for a cell phone, a tablet, a computer, or even a video game, and it doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with tabletop board gaming or whatnot. A while back ago, we had somebody on who likes to take his dogs traveling with him, so he had an app on where like different places he can take them to, restaurants or places to stay or whatnot. And then somebody else had one where they could take a picture of anything and it would tell them whether or not it's a hot dog.
That seems like an extremely useful app.
Yeah, I thought it was. I got a hoot out of it. I haven't actually tried it, but it sounded pretty fun. I was glad she brought it up. That was the that was the creator. Her name was Jen. They recently did what was it? They're with Pillbox Games, and they recently had launched what is it? Side Effects, a card game or whatnot that did pretty good on Kickstarter.
Yes. Yes, it did.
So that was pretty cool. But yeah, is there an application that you use a lot of that we can talk about for a moment?
So first, yes, I have listened to some of your other podcasts, so I did know that this was coming.
Oh boy, there you go, prepared.
And second, I have two, if that's okay.
Yeah, I don't see why not. They might run me out on the street and hang me, but that'll be okay.
So I guess the catch here is I've already mentioned them. So the first is Discord. Discord is basically a voice chat software, but it's also sort of a social program as well. You can have, it's almost like a chat timeline. So you can create rooms within a server. You can have members join a community and sort of do community building through there. And that's what we've done with our game. I think we've got about 50 or so members in our Discord server at any given time. So that's been huge for us because it's a free voice service that anyone can use. You don't even have to download the app. You can use it through your browser. As long as you're not needing a push to talk key and you just want an open mic, you can go on there. And it was designed, I guess, with the intent for video gamers, but now everyone's using it. They're trying to make it an alternative to Skype, I guess. But it's a great voice chat software, good voice quality, server latency is good, and it's free. So that's always nice.
So there you go. So yeah, my son a while back ago, he introduced me to it and actually got us. Him and his friends had made I guess I made an official. I don't even know what it's called. I guess are they channels or servers? He made an official Getting Geeky with Game Relief fan club one for us a while back.
Oh, nice.
So that's pretty cool. So what your server you talk of? Is that for anybody or is that just for your team or how does that work?
That is for anybody. And if you go on our website, vitales.com, if you go to the beta dropdown, you can join our Discord server. So anyone is welcome, providing that you can be respectful. We don't want trolls in our server. And now that I said it, we're going to get them. But it is open for anybody. There is an invitation link right there on our website.
Okay, yeah, and if you get us the links, we'll make sure we include them all in the show notes and whatnot, so we have notes to show. And you talked of another application. What's that one?
Well, this one, and it'll be obvious once I say it, is Tabletop Simulator. It's been the most pivotal part of iterating and developing our game. You can basically make whatever you want in there, and you can play with people who are around the world. I have a friend in Australia. I have a friend in the UK. I had a friend in Mississippi and Oregon, and we were all playing at the same time together. So that's pretty amazing, right? Being able to do tabletop gaming when you're not even in the same place.
Now, is this different than Tabletopia, or is this the same thing?
This is different. So I believe that Tabletop Simulator came out first. It is a one-time purchase. There's nothing beyond that. There is some DLC if you want to buy published games on there, because there are some companies that will publish it there and monetize. But beyond that, and it's usually on sale somewhere. Right now, I think it's on sale for 50% off for $10, but don't quote me on that. but it's very often on sale. So it's usually $10. You got this permanently now, and you've got a huge library of games you can play. For us, though, just being able to customize it, bring in our own assets, and being able to test our game. And normally speaking, you'd be, scratching out notes on a note card or reprinting cards or things like that. And this was as simple as change the JPEG file and reload it, and now we can play the new version of the card. So that was critical for developing our game. But just, keeping in touch with friends, like I said right at the beginning, I'm trying to, bookend it, right? Right at the beginning of the podcast, I was mentioning how, sometimes friends can drift apart just from location or employment or whatever the case may be. But it's a way where you can stay connected with people, and you can be social without being in the same place. And that's the part I really like about it.
Okay, and is your game? Let's see. So on the table, you call it tabletop simulator.
Yes, and you purchase it through Steam. Yep.
And is there free games on there? I know you talked about some people monetize their games. Are there free games we can play on there after we purchase it?
So there are free games on there. I guess I don't want to go into logistics of legality or anything, but people upload mods of just about anything on there. So if you own the game, I think that maybe there's some gray area, but anyhow, yeah, there's lots and lots of games that are existing on there.
Okay. So since you've heard our podcaster before, maybe you prepared the answers or whatnot. What would you do to make both Discord as well as Tabletop Simulator better applications if you own the rights to them?
If I own the rights to, oh boy. See, so Tabletop Simulator, I think would be great if it had what Tabletopia does. The one thing I think Tabletopia has over it, and that's being able to invite someone to play it for free. Because in Tabletopia, the way that works is if you're a creator and you need to create beyond one table, it's a subscription model, right? So, but other than that, if you're just going to invite people to play, anyone can just open a browser and play. So I think either that, or I would also accept a mobile version. One of the two. I don't really care which. As far as Discord goes, there's not a lot that I would really improve. They have even video mode now. They have screen share now. So they have a lot of the things that were sort of wish list items for some people. I don't know. I think if you could message people, like if you could text people through your Discord account, because there's a phone app as well. But if someone doesn't have the phone app, if you could send messages to them and maybe even call to phones, I think that would probably be a 100% improvement.
Okay, well, there you go. You heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. If anybody's listening that has anything to do with either of those applications, cool beans. So now, Stephen, minus coming there to your hometown to stalk you, or I guess other creators that you guys are in different states, how would people go about finding out about you or your game or other? I know you talked about once this funds on Kickstarter and whatnot, making other factions and whatnot. How would somebody go about finding out about you guys?
Okay, so on Twitter and on Facebook, we're at Infinities DOF, as in Defiance of Fate. So you can find us on there on our social sites. For our primary website, it is vatales.com. So that's VATALES.com. That will also provide the link, as I mentioned, to our Discord server, and it provides a link to the beta workshop item on Tabletop Simulator, so you could download the game and play it yourself. Those are the places that I'm comfortable being stalked. I think that's about it.
Well, there you go. So now you know how to comfortably stalk Stephen. So that's great. Yeah, we wanted to thank you for. Well, actually, I've done this a couple other times. Is there anything that you think we could do to make Getting Geeky with Game Relief a better podcast? I'm actually one for constructive criticism.
Let's see. I think if we could maybe every 5 minutes or so get some paid advertisement to interrupt the flow of the talking, that would be great. I don't know. Sometimes I listen to podcasts and they think that that's a good idea. Really what I think would be great is weekly or monthly, maybe a video cast.
Okay, yeah, we're trying to experiment because we do have a YouTube channel with what I don't even remember how many, 700 to 800 or more subscriber. We're trying to explore video, whatnot. Kind of scared to do so, but yeah, we want to try to get into that as well.
Just put your kids in front of the camera and they'll just cheer you on while you're talking. And I think people will upvote that.
There you go, cool beans. So we'll try. Yeah, we're going to try to do something with video, and then you said also to get some paid ads on every 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, I think, well, let's make it reasonable. 6 minutes is probably a good pocket to be in for each break.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, listened to some podcasts where both like I want to say they're like more in running. I don't know about board game ones, but like where like the first 15-20 minutes is like a paid advertisement and then that turns me off or whatnot. But maybe your 5 or 6 minute idea is a lot better. And then I also heard some where they take a break and then play some music or whatnot. I don't know what that's all about.
There you go. Well, yeah, and what also would be good is just have background music playing the whole time and have it at a level where you can like not really tell what each person is saying because the music is too loud. That sounds like a good podcast idea.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, kind of like a subliminal message or whatever. I can call them in to listen. Yeah, that'd be good.
And again, to bookend, if these ideas don't work, just blame my friends because it's their fault that I'm on this podcast.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we can. I don't know if you get the art by the time we launch. If you end up getting the artwork that you're going to put on the box that says "Blame My Friends" or whatnot, we can put that on this episode as well.
There we go.
Cool beans. Well, we don't want to keep you all night, but we really appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief with us, Steven.
All right, thank you, Blake.
No problem. Thank you very much, sir. Welcome to Kickstarter Corner. I am joined today with Barbarian Leaf. Hey, Barbarian Leaf, what's up?
Good. We just barely played chess today.
Yeah, we played a little bit of chess, so let's go on with Kickstarter Corner so that people know what's going on with their lives or what games they can talk about. We got Creatures of Vathis, Volume 1. It's D&D, 5e, and Pathfinder. Creatures of Vathis, Volume 1 is a 150-page bestiary compatible with both D&D 5th edition and Pathfinder role-playing game. Check this out. The art's pretty cool.
There's like 144 backers and 17 days to go. They have $6,764. They need for $25.
Yeah, 25,000. So let's see here. Yeah, and they're going through the 3rd of March, like a bunch of them. So there you go with that one. And then we've also got
Dungeon Ally, a worker placement game where dungeon dice are the workers.
Yeah, this is by Joe Magic Games. They have overfunded. They funded it initially when they got $40. We'll be doing an interesting interview with the creator of it, as we were able to get not very good reception. So look out for that. They have until when?
44 days to go, and March 30th. Now there's Bitcoin Empire to the Moon 2.0, a card game about Bitcoin.
Oh, Bitcoin.
I mean Bitcoin. And conspiracy that the moon landings are fake.
Or what?
Fake.
There you go. And they go till when?
3 days to go, and that's February 17th.
So they end on Saturday. So check out that one on the Kickstarters, and make sure you back it so you can get that great game. And last but not least, we've got
Warriors of Jog Faint Outwit
your opponent.
Yeah, I know. You just had that thing in the way. Outwit your opponent. This tactical card game of bluffing and deduction. And it got 54 hours to go.
So yeah, they're almost at that 48-hour mark by the time you hear this.
Oh, it's after tomorrow. It's on Friday.
Yeah, it ends on Friday, so check it out. It looks like they had a review. I want to say I saw that Cardboard Stacker actually reviewed this, I think, on their YouTube channel, so check that out. I think I'll have to ask him, and then I'll ask him if I can include that. But Man vs. Meeple, Tantrum House, Yeah, Cardboard Stacker, they do. They do, look, there they are, the elephant. You saw them, they do a 2-player how to play and whatnot, so I wonder if this is a heavy game.
It probably is.
It probably is, they do heavy cardboard. So that's pretty cool, and I think that's it. So what do we need to do, Barbarian Leaf?
Signing off. Just remember, I beat my dad today again at chess.
Well, there you go. So get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others into the geek fold. And this is Gamer Leaf signing off.
Bye.
Game over. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf and Dreams are respawned.